What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Good Bro, Bad Bro, the number one show in the world helping young kings, queens, and in-betweens improve their social skills, their confidence, as well as their dating and relationships. Today, I'm super excited to interview a fellow dating coach. He's a guy that helps people with their relationships, in particular business professionals that have very busy schedules and they're looking for their dream partner. His name is David Meeson. The guy's got a very interesting accent, and today we're going to dive into a bunch of topics. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy it. Be sure to hit the like button, drop a comment for the algorithm, and let me know what you think about this episode by leaving me a comment below. Enjoy.
And I'm feeling good. I like a dude who fucks his wife up and then gets it back together. Let's go, Jack!
Hello.
David!
How's life?
Dude, you look like a James Bond villain in that chair.
Like the ginger version of it, trying to be wannabe version.
They ever have a ginger James Bond villain? I feel like it
They
would make
should,
sense.
man. It's racism, isn't it?
Yeah, dude. Especially since they're always hiring British dudes to be James Bond, eh? What's going on with that?
I'm German, though.
You're a German guy. I thought you were Irish.
Yeah. People think that because I have the red hair, but there's no Irish in my family.
You strike me as one of those dudes that speaks like 6 different languages.
No, but a close friend of mine who actually helps me with the coaching, he legitimately speaks 6 languages. So I only speak German and English, and that's about it. But that's why when people tell me, oh, I'm multilingual, I'm like, really though? Are you really? And then they have a heavy accent. That friend of mine, right? He lived in Germany for 3 years. He speaks German better than me. It's unbelievable. And German is a difficult.
Yeah,
difficult.
dude, I imagine like you probably learned German first, eh? I'm Canadian, so don't mind my accent. You might.
That's the A.
Yeah, dude. One thing I like about your content too is like I'm in the similar industry. Like I do a lot of consulting and coaching for guys with confidence, social skills, and stuff. But I'm in my 20s, and I'm wearing like a baggy wolf T-shirt. I got long, greasy hair. I think that one thing that I've taken into consideration is that I'd be taken way more seriously if I dressed like you, you know, nice short haircut. How much of a difference do you think that makes with your clients?
Massive, man, massive. Because it depends on who you want to attract as a client, right?
Yeah.
See, the cool thing about you is I didn't look too much into it, but like you got a great vibe, you got a great voice, like that's as you're probably aware.
Yeah.
But it's like, so that's amazing. That's a really good asset that didn't just happen. That's probably trained as well. There's probably a lot of work that went into that. But it's people buy from people, or people get help from people that are either like them or that they want to be like, you know, and we're all, so it's like, who do I want to attract as a client, you know? And I'm very clear on the kind of client that I want to attract. Like wearing suits doesn't come natural to me. I don't think it's necessary to wear. I'm not the kind of guy who recommends guys to wear suits on dates. That's ridiculous. You should never wear suits. You should never wear suits unless, except for business, right?
Yeah. So I already did the intro, but tell us about yourselves for all the people watching, so that way they know a background on you.
Very briefly, I used to be the biggest beta male, quote unquote, in the whole world. Not just because I'm ginger. I do get a lot of help for that.
Damn, bro. Let's break it down. Why do you think you were...
And I cry myself to sleep regularly over that fact. But other than that, no, man. I grew up in Germany. And my parents were very loving parents, very, very intelligent people, father doctor, mother nurse. But they had a bad relationship. They had a bad marriage. They just weren't right for each other. So I never had a role model. And my father never tried to teach me anything about dating and relationships because he realized in order to be able to teach something, you must have been able to create that result in your life first. And second, you ideally should have been able to help some of the people. You got to have an idea of what you're teaching, but you got to be able to produce the result in your own life first. And so I never had a role model. So I'm like, I tell this story quite often because like it's quite poignant example of where I was at the time. I'd be in a nightclub in Germany with a friend of mine. In Germany, people speak German. Like everybody speaks German. People speak English also, but like you speak German. That's the language. Everybody speaks German. So I'm in a nightclub and my friend of mine, he's dancing with a girl. Right. And I'm like, oh, fuck, he's dancing with a girl. That's cool. And I'm here by myself. You know, I want to go speak to girls. I don't really know how to do it. We find out at the end of the night that she was a prostitute, but that's beside the point. Okay. Some Russian dude rolls up to us and he goes, yes, you can have her number. And we're like, oh, okay, cool, bro. Nastarovi davai. So yeah, you can keep her. That's fine.
So he was a pimp?
Yeah, he was a pimp. He was a proper pimp. Yeah. Right? And she was like, we didn't know. But like, I was just there and he was dancing with the girl. And I was like, he's the cool dude. And I'm like, just me. I wasn't always the friendly, nice.
You're too nice. Yeah, got you.
Yeah, I was always the friendly, nice guy. I was I was listening to girls talk about their problems with guys they went on dates on. I gave them advice. They ended up being together with a guy. Hey, congratulations, you know? And so like I'm in that nightclub, right? He's dancing with a girl. I'm like, I want to go do something, right? I was always in the personal development, martial arts. I was confident in general, just not with girls. So I see this girl. I want to go speak to her. It took me an hour and a couple of gluten-free beers to finally be able to walk over and say hi. And when I walked over, I didn't understand the social dynamics. I didn't understand attraction. I didn't understand communication. My confidence with girls was basically zero.
So you probably
so
walk over there, like looking down, kind of like not making eye contact. You probably just fucked the dog.
I didn't have the golem posture, you know. I didn't walk over quite like a golem. Like I did have a straight posture, but everything else was terrible.
Right, okay.
Like, everything else except for keeping my head high was terrible. I walk over to her and I asked the German girl in the German nightclub in English, "Excuse me, where's the toilet?"
Oh.
She looks at me. I know. She looks at me like, what? Like I had AIDS on my face or something, right? It's like, what's that? And you know this feeling of like blood rushing to your head of embarrassment and shame?
Oh, dude.
And I just walked away and I was just chilled in the toilet for a few minutes. That was about the extent of my dating and relationship.
Like your big approach. You that was your idea.
That was the big one. Man, that was the big one. I was so proud of myself, right? Because I was in personal development. I was like, do it. And it was like, but I felt shit afterwards because I didn't know what, you know, right? I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So, but one thing I was always good at was martial arts. I did judo, taekwondo, and then karate for many years. I eventually ended up teaching at my university as well. So I fly from Germany to Ireland with my karate instructor. And we go to something called the European Kempo Karate Camp, where people from 40 different countries come together. You beat the fuck out of each other during the day, and then at night you get hammered in the pub, right? Which is nice.
Yeah.
And so I'm there, and I'm talking to a karate friend of mine, and then there's a girl that starts talking to me and him, and she starts kind of like hitting on me, and I'm like, wow, female attention. This is amazing.
Dude.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm there by myself, and I kind of like, because he vanished, and I'm just talking to her. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. She was like,
did he do that on purpose? Did he wingman you? Did he like leave so that you could talk to her?
Probably, maybe. I don't know. I didn't know what a wingman was.
Okay, well, that's a good bro move right there. That's a good bro move.
Yeah, no, it's probably cool. It was probably cool. Yeah, we trained together the whole weekend. It was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking to this girl, and she starts hitting on me. I'm like, okay, cool. And I didn't understand what was going on. I was so deprived of the female attention that anything and everything that was, wow, was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And before you know it, I jump into a long distance relationship with her for a year. I moved to Ireland. I go to university. We spend a couple of years, and we get married.
Yeah, so how old were you during all this?
When I met her, I was 18. I was about to turn 19.
Oh, wow. Okay. This was young.
I was young, man. I was young. Still young, but like that was then. And so we spent a couple of years together. We get married. And it wasn't because it was so great. You know that, you know, when you have no experience, you think the next one you meet is like so amazing just because she's like 2% better than what you had before, and now you idolize that person. And she was like older than me. She was like 8 years older than me. You know?
Wow.
So she had a much stronger frame. She
knew the game, dude. She was able to kind of choose you as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, probably. And so I didn't understand dynamics. I didn't understand like
she locked you down, eh? She married you. Wow.
Basically. And so there were a lot of things wrong in the relationship. I'll never speak badly about her in public, but in private, no, neither. Yeah. But it was difficult. There were a lot of incompatibilities, right? She was very religious, and I wasn't. Now I have plenty of clients now who are from all kinds of religions, which is fine. But if you have an intimate partner, if both people are religious, they should have the same religion. Or if nobody's religious, then she shouldn't be. You know, you got to be on the same page when it comes to your values and your personalities.
Yeah.
There were so many things that were wrong. Just to give you a plastic example of how bad things were. In like, can I curse a little bit or like?
Yeah, buddy, you can swear. Yeah.
What a simp beta piece of shit I was. Okay. Imagine that, like, it's a sunny day in Ireland. We don't get too many of those. Okay. We go for a walk. It's a Saturday or whatever. We want to go. We spend a couple of hours together, quality time. And after like 2 minutes outside of the house, she goes, oh, it's pretty sunny. You should probably put your sun protection on. I'm like, I know I'm ginger and white, but I know I can take like 15, 20 minutes and then I start to burn, you know? But I was like, I want a little bit of vitamin D, you know? And I'm going, yeah, I think I'll put it on like in half an hour or so, a little bit later. She goes, no, you should put it on right now because like skin cancer is really dangerous, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm good. She didn't speak to me for 3 hours because I didn't put sun protection on my own body.
Well, you guys kept walking.
You know, she walked ahead of me, didn't speak to me, and then she just walked away and like ignored me for 3 hours because I didn't listen to her advice. because I didn't want to put sun protection on my own
Bro,
body. There's
like,
many more examples.
she's treating you like a kid almost.
And I created that problem in the first place because I entered those frames. Now,
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you entered the relationship as that role in the first place because you're inexperienced. So did she like just think that if you got into the relationship with her, she could turn you into the guy she wanted you to be?
Most likely, that's my assumption. I don't know that, but that is my assumption, you know. And it's like the most important thing is it's not to say that she's an evil person or anything. No, it's not like that. People meet each other's needs. Okay, there's a couple of people in the world who are really like crazy BBDs and all of that stuff. But I don't think she's a bad person or anything. I think she was trying to meet her own needs for certainty and security. That's what she was trying to find, a guy that she could like mold. And I definitely was moldable in a certain way, but like only up until a point. And so, man, we get engaged and we get married, and I suffer so tremendously emotionally, and I couldn't even explain it to myself.
So did you want to get married, or did you feel pressured into it?
So there wasn't direct pressure. It was indirect, you know? And it wasn't, again, I would never blame her. It was like, I could have not done that, you know?
Yeah.
But it's understanding the dynamics. Man, we got engaged, and like between being engaged and married, which takes like a year or something, I'm in Germany visiting my uncle, and I wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweat, and I'm like, I'm afraid of losing her. I'll never find someone like her. Completely random. I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
No.
Like, why?
Yeah, not good.
Because I was so psychologically attached, because you know that when you don't have options and she's the only one meeting your need for love and connection in such a significant way, then you're screwed. So I basically got married because I was afraid of losing her, because I knew that because she was religious, if I wasn't going to marry her, that was going to be it. And I couldn't fathom the possibility of not having her in my life, one, hurting her, and second, losing her.
So you doubled down.
Yeah, man.
That's a big problem I find with people is like they'll date somebody that's not perfect, but since that's the person they're dating, in their head they're like, well, this has to be the best person I can date. So how they actually are, and then the ideal match, what they do is they like kind of just assume and bring it up to like all the things they don't know or the things they don't like, they ignore, so that the person is much closer to their ideal match than they actually are, because at that point they're already committed. So that's a big fallacy, man, because a lot of people that are imperfect, you think they're perfect because you just don't have the options. You know, you're invested at that point. So you're in there and you got married, and then you figured this out, and you're just like, I'm out of here. Or what happened?
Well, so I suffered a ton. I felt so bad. I suffered emotionally so hard. And there were a couple of things that happened, but mainly I was working for a big tech company at the time, and I'm not religious. I'm a little bit spiritual, but I'm like mainly practical, very practical, results-oriented German in that sense. But I believe life, God, universe, Allah, whatever you want to call it, gave me a second chance, because I was there, worked for a tech company, and then there's a guy who was like in the dating industry, actively in there for like 8, 9, 10 years at that stage, who started working with me at the same time. He became my friend and my mentor, and he showed me the path, the way, and the light, so to speak.
Wait, yeah, I was going to ask about your origin story. So you were in sales? Because, you're a good talker. I assume you were doing tech sales?
Yeah, sales, yeah.
You were selling like Excel programs and shit like that?
I was working for a company called Salesforce, which is basically customer relationship management software to huge companies. It's like, you know, like techie stuff, you know. Right,
okay, but so one of your coworkers was in the dating space?
Yes.
So he did like dating on the side, but he was doing tech sales full time, or
he was never a coach, but he went he went into it, you know, he was in it, if you get what I'm saying, right? He was in the industry, he went to many seminars for many years.
Wait, so he was participating in it, or was he coaching others like you do?
No, he wasn't coaching. He would never coached others. He was being coached.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So he brought you into that world, and you didn't know this world existed before, right?
I didn't know this world existed. Man, this was the first time. We're at a company event, right? And I see him approach somebody, not at work. For anybody listening to that, don't ever do that. That's a ridiculous idea. So he approaches. I just see him approach 2 girls, and I was like, I don't know if the first time you've seen somebody do that. I was like, what just happened? He just walked over to these girls, came back, got a number. I was like, what? Because if you remember in the beginning, there's this fear, there's this invisible wall. And I've seen you do your stuff. You're excellent. But there probably was a time where you weren't like that good either, right?
No.
Like in the beginning, I saw him and I was like, what just happened? Like I saw that he had a skill that nobody else in my fucking team saw. None of the other guys who recognized it. I'm not sure, maybe their ego was too big or whatever was going on. And I was like, what is happening here? And so I was like, this guy's got some. So I milked him. And he's not like me at all. Like I got a pretty big mouth. like he held back quite a bit because he recognized, like, if you work in big tech companies, there's a lot of politics in there that you got to pay attention to. You got to be really careful,
Yeah.
So I had to squeeze everything out of him. I had to get every single piece out of him. And then, but we spent more time. We started going out together. And in the beginning, I was still completely socially retarded, right?
Yeah.
Fernanda, everything okay? People are complaining about the noise. I'm too loud. I'm in a hotel.
Buddy, you're good. Don't worry about it. I'm actually in Arizona right now. I'm living in a house with so I'm on a film trip. We're filming a bunch of pranks here, so that way I have enough content to put up every week for the summer, and then I can focus more on like my coaching and services and shit like that. But
you bulk it, yeah?
What's that?
You film in bulk beforehand, yeah?
Yeah. So where I'm from, Toronto, man, weather's shit. Campuses and universities and parks that just aren't good to film. But down here in Arizona, man, you got universities with like 80,000 students. You got public parks, malls. I could film multiple videos in one day, but what I do, I'll bring multiple shirts. And then, right now I'm sitting on 16 videos. So I'm good till June, but I need to film about 12 more. And then going to go to Peru.
That YouTube or long form videos or like TikTok videos?
Oh, no, these are pranks for YouTube. So we're talking like 10 to 20 minute long videos.
You have
I'm kind of
backlog of 16.
Yeah, I'm in a weird space, man, because like you saw my background. I just did pranks, pickup line videos, drunk interviews, just like funny content. But as I matured more, I realized like my biggest thing that I like to do and makes me feel the best is like helping others. And kind of like you were just describing with, oh my God, I can't believe that guy was able to go do that and talk to people. That's something that I guess I took for granted for a long time that a lot of people don't know. So they watch my videos and they go, how is he able to do that? So it's very like, I'm good at it. So I love helping people with it. Yeah. And, but yeah, I know what you mean. You got,
well, you are really good at it. You are really good at it. And I like, see, you don't get it through the voice, but like, I'm actually extraordinarily loud and I'm in the hotel room. So that like, because we're traveling a lot at the moment. And so people must have complaints. I got to keep it down a bit, but nah, man, you're really good at it. Like your vibe is on point. It's really cool. And like we take it for granted at some point, especially if you've done it for a while, but you're like, no, this is magic. You actually have a superpower. What you have there, what people like you and I have, it's actually a superpower. It's developed. It's not given at all. It's very much developed, but it really is a superpower. Yeah. And it's I feel like it's such important work to help men with it. It's so important.
Well, yeah, I mean, for you though, it probably came like it was a no-brainer because you're in sales, right? And what we're doing is basically sales. So you came from a sales background. Maybe you had the conceptions about dating and relationships, but you were probably really good at, cold calling people all day, handling objections, stuff like that. And in some ways it's similar to like when you approach and talk to somebody. It's like you're doing sales for yourself though. You're almost selling yourself as a interesting person, but also like you're trying to see if that person's a qualified buyer for you. Like, hey, am I interested in you? And I think that's one thing a lot of people go wrong with. They're trying too much to impress the other person. Whereas you also want the dynamic of like, hey, like I'm interested, but not sold on you. Why should I be interested in you? Because I think where a lot of guys go wrong is they immediately pedestalize the person they're talking to.
Yeah, 100%. There's one big difference though between dating and sales.
Yeah.
And that is in sales, there's logic. In dating, there's no logic. There is logic to the overall process, but there's no logic in the interaction. In sales, it's perfectly fine to try to convince the buyer with logic. In dating, there's never, ever a point where you'll logically try to persuade and convince her. Ever. Now, in good sales, technically, ideally, the better the brand, the less convincing you have to do.
Very German of you. America's like that too, where, hey, if you give me the best price, that's logical. Let's do it. But yeah, you're right. That is a big difference. You were putting it beautifully. Keep going. Explain that difference.
Yeah, that's it. So when you like in sales, there can be a point where if somebody hasn't seen the reasons, for example, I'll never try to convince anybody, be like, oh, you become my client. I was like, they see the stuff, they apply, we have a call, we'll talk about it. And then if they have objections, then we'll talk about that logically, right? Then you can logically handle that. But there's never anything like, and in sales, there may be a point where you can, in other forms of in big tech, there's a point where you can actually sell and be like, no, this is why you should do it. This is like logically try to persuade the person. Makes sense.
Yeah.
In dating, try to persuade a girl to move things forward with you, to go on a date with you, to be in a relationship with you. She's going to freak out. The more you actually have to do the opposite.
Yeah, no. You can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, more so like the social skills that come with sales, like the confidence, your voice, how when you call people, you sound like you have the fucking new sliced bread, whatever you have is the greatest thing on God's given earth. So if you can channel that into a voice. Well, another thing though, too, you don't want to be a dancing monkey for people. You can't, it's not sustainable to have super high energy and be like really outgoing if you're not actually that person, right? So, but I feel like most salespeople, they have that, and that's why they're drawn to sales. So, do you know any guys in sales that are very introverted, or do you see mostly extroverted guys?
Oh, 100%. I know 100% a lot of sales, because I used to work for Salesforce, right? Which is a really big, the number one cloud platform, as they like to call themselves. They have a lot of really intelligent people. A lot of people there are introverted. A lot of people are introverted. And I think it's about your style, right? A lot of my clients, 80% of my clients are introverts. I would say 80, 90%. I'm very extroverted, but 80, 90% of my clients over the years have been and are introverted. And I'm very rah-rah and loud, but that's because my mother, who's a nurse, who's my hero, is very much dramatic and theatrical as well. And my father is calmer, but my mom's really rah-rah, passionate, energetic. That's where I got that from. But you don't have to be like that at all. As you're saying, you don't want to be a dancing monkey. When I tell a joke, I don't tell the joke to make her laugh. I tell it because it's a natural expression of who I am, because I want to make myself laugh. And she's going to laugh as a result of the positive emotions I experience.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. We do shape our personalities a lot around how we're raised, right? And, if you have a lot of siblings, I would say that it makes you much more of a leader if you're like the oldest of them. So for me, like I'm the oldest of all my cousins and my siblings. So I was named after my grandpa, and I came into the family as I was always the oldest. So, there's that bridge when you're a kid, like the adult table and then the kid table. I would be like the mediator that would go in between. And eventually, though, it just worked. But I feel like if I was in the middle of the pack or at the bottom of the pack, I would be less of a leader, if that makes sense.
Interesting, because I never thought about it a lot like that. I have a younger brother, so there's always a degree of protection, and you gotta be the role model a little bit. I always like that also, but I think that may be part of it. Yeah, for sure.
So once you got into this dating world, like you had to do a bunch of information, and probably because it was probably a shock to you how different things are than what you were brought up to believe they actually are. Like, what were some of the biggest misconceptions you had? I know you said like being overly nice, being hesitant, and probably like worrying about going to strangers and talking to them. But like, as you transition into being like a dating and relationship coach, what were some of the biggest misconceptions you had about the industry, about the clients, and just about relationships and dating in general? Big question.
I know, right? There's so many. There were so many things. Spontaneously, what comes to my mind is one of the things is the the high you get after you do an approach.
Yeah.
As in this, because it's not for any weird reason or anything. The biggest thing is you do something 9 out of 10 men will never do. You do something that's difficult. You create freedom, because it was so difficult for me in the beginning to do it. I had so much approach anxiety, as it's called, this fear. I was so nervous in the beginning, as I told you in that story earlier. When I got good at it, I remember I started going out with my friend there, and right at the beginning, I went out for him for like 4 weeks. Then once I was still working for Salesforce at the time, we started going out to nightclubs, not drinking any alcohol. And I'm talking to this girl, and I was still socially retarded, but because like after like 10, 15 minutes, she asks me, so are you going to kiss me or what? And I was like, oh, okay, holy shit. So we started making out. And in Dublin, we have a river called the Liffey that divides the city into north and south. And I remember I was walking home that night, listening to Imagine Dragons with a high in my head and in my heart, and
not a good
firework.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
That's so true, though. Do you think that I feel like that must be some kind of evolutionary thing, though? Like your brain's like, hey, you did it. This is good. It must know that, like, that's it's like when you fucking throw a spear into a cantaloupe and it lands and you're like, yes, the boy's got food for a week. Your body must be like, these are skills that are going to lead to reproductive success, right?
Yes, there must be something to it, man. The brain must inherently know you're doing something good, because there's 2 things we as men want to conquer in life. There's business and women. Like there's health and family, there's other aspects to our life, obviously. But the 2 things to be conquered is, one, career success, business success. And the other one is either like getting an amazing dating life for some men, or like for 90% of men, it's really finding a high quality relationship. That's really what I found to be true for most men, right?
Yeah, basically having control of your dating.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, choosing it, right? And once you make progress in either of those areas, your brain is like, you're on the right path, motherfucker. You're doing something right. You're dominating life. This is exactly what you were meant to be doing. You're not supposed to sit at home, watch videos, right? And masturbate yourself
Dude,
to sleep.
that's the
What
worst.
you're
You know
designed
what?
to do.
Sometimes, David, I feel like I'm not even that talented. I just don't watch videos. I don't play video games. If I played video games, if I had Snapchat, if I watched porn, if I did all those, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I think one of the biggest takeaways I've realized is like doing less is what leads you to do more. Because if you have less shit that you're doing, then you can focus more on the things that matter. So yeah, that's a good point. And you know what, man? I think that SCHMOVID, it caused all kinds of problems for many reasons, but it really fucked with men dating because all these guys that maybe they did have a little bit of momentum, maybe they did have a social circle, maybe they were like going out a lot for 2 years. They had to sit indoors. Now I don't know what Germany and Ireland's like, but here in Canada, man, we just got out of lockdown like 1 month ago. That's it. It was 2 years of just wearing. It was just, dude, people couldn't do anything. So what I saw, a lot of guys around my age, like mid-20s, they just went into Discord servers. They played video games. They started like, doing online jobs, or they didn't work at all because our government was paying people to stay home too. You could get on the welfare, and I feel like all that momentum people had. Hey, what's the latest concert coming up? Let's join this salsa class or some kind of group activity, birthday, going out. All of that came to a halt. Everybody just turned inwards, became introverted. I feel like people aged like 5 years during lockdown.
And people suffered so much throughout lockdown. Like I was with Fernanda every day, right? And I met my friends all the time from the beginning because I didn't care. But that's a conversation in and of itself. But like the most important thing is the social contact factor, because the science is very clear. Joanne Hari wrote an amazing book. I don't know if you read it, called Lost Connections, The Real Cause of Anxiety and Depression. And so that one it basically says the number one reason is, I'm not a scientist, right? But number one reason for anxiety, depression, and addictions is the lack of high quality social contact. People don't understand that it's the number one contributor to your happiness. Number one contributor to your happiness is high quality social contact. And people suffer a lot, man. This dating thing is like part of the reason like I coach and I teach the same as yourself is, one, it's a fun thing to do. It's really fun, but there's also the meaning side, because men, women as well, but men suffer a lot because they're lonely, and because they're with the wrong women who make their lives a living hell. But even just like take the people who are alone, who are at home, man, I have a lot of clients who are very, very successful, very financially successful. And they tell me literally today in the group coaching call, man, one of the guys was like, I literally have 0 friends. And this guy like spent over like 50K on himself last month. Okay.
Oh my God.
Just like for pleasure. Right. But he literally goes to me, I have zero good friends.
That's
right?
crazy.
And I'm like, oh. And then he tells me he's lonely. Sorry for interrupting you.
No,
and then he tells me he's lonely and he's thinking about going back to his ex. Well, yeah, of course you're lonely because you don't have high quality male friends around you. You are not. You only started the program.
I have so many ways to go from this. One, somebody made a great analogy to me once. They're like, would you be that upset if you had like a great looking, cool girl with an awesome personality? No, you would never go back to an ex, right? So that's the analogy whenever a guy's going through that. But you said something very interesting. That guy was willing to spend that much money. I find like a lot of my clients are in their 20s, but the ones I have in their late 20s, early 30s that are having the same issues you just described, they feel lonely. I always tell them, dude, you did the hardest part. You started a business or got a job or something where you make that much money. Like we're talking the top percentage of people in the world. You'd think those guys would be having the confidence of the Conor McGregor, like they'd be running around, showboating, and it would be no problem. But it's the total opposite. It's guys that like they have a super successful business and they're making lots of money every month. We're talking tens of thousands, 20,000s, but they still have extreme approach anxiety. They have low self-confidence. I think a lot of it too has to do with like people have a hard time balancing health with money. Like these guys will be worth a lot, but they sit in a chair 12 hours a day, right? They're not eating good food. They are just letting themselves rot inside a cave and doing that for the pursuit of building their business. But what they don't realize is like, this is the easy part. I think it's harder to start a business and make that kind of revenue than it would be to go through a several week coaching program and transition into somebody that has way more improved social skills.
for you because you got the reference experience. It's for you because you got the reference
Fair
experience.
enough. Yeah.
For those guys,
Yeah.
like, I'll build a business any day of the week. I'll build a business any day of the week. I'll climb this corporate ladder again and again. I'll become VP again. No problem. But tell me to go speak to this girl in a shopping mall. Tell her, excuse me 2 seconds. You're really pretty. I just want to come and say hi. And they die. They're hyperventilating.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point, man.
For those of you that need direct one-on-one help, I do have coaching services available. There's a lot of you guys that are going through a rough time. You don't have the confidence to go and approach somebody. You want to find a way to improve your life so that you have better options. Maybe you need specific advice related to your mindset, your inner confidence, or you just want to get a girlfriend and you want to know the steps to improve your life and change things that you're doing that aren't working. I've coached hundreds of guys, and the guys that I find the most benefit from this are usually dudes in their 20s or 30s that have a purpose. They're working towards something in their business life, but they have major approach anxiety. They aren't able to get with the women they want to. They don't actually have a girl in their life that's providing value to them. It's not going the way they want to. So if you'd like to book a one-on-one call with me, go to the link in the description. April, I still have about 50% availability, and I look forward to hearing from you guys.
And you know what's funny? I bet the reason that they made all that money and got that business going was probably inherently, they channeled their sexual energy into that, right? And they probably thought, once I get all this, it'll be easier, but it's not like that.
A lot of men do that. And there's a lot of people out there who are telling men, yeah, just make money and women are going to come to you. No, the wrong women are going to come to you.
No.
I tell you this, man, from the bottom of my heart, as you know for a fact, the right girls do not care about money at all. And people don't believe that when we tell them that. But the right women don't give a fuck. Now, obviously, you should, as a man, you should still have financial goals, do well, because why not? It's more of a why not.
You should never leverage your money to meet people. The way I look at it is like, if you make a lot of money, you're able to travel to a country like, let's say, I don't know, Dubai, Tulum, Mexico, Vancouver. Basically, you can go to a spot that's a travel hub where there's lots of people coming and going, which makes it super easy. Like there's a tourism industry. There's always new people there. And the kind of people that can go and be in that place in a joyful environment where they can approach and talk to strangers, that's like, money buys that. That's what money can buy. But you can't spend the money on like something materialistic or superficial and try to flex or impress with it, because that's going to attract the worst type of women.
Let me tell you something. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But the thing is, these guys, they don't even do that. What do? They stay in LA, they stay in Dallas, they stay in New York, and they don't understand how priceless, how much happiness you can get if you just go to the mall and you just do 10 or 20 approaches. They don't understand. It's going to be rough. You're going to want to cry yourself to sleep sometimes. That's okay. But once you go through the process and you actually learn it, there's obviously online as well, but in real life especially, they don't understand the happiness that comes from doing that, because you create freedom for yourself. That's ultimately what it is.
You push yourself out of your comfort zone, man. It's like going to the gym when you don't want to. You lift a bunch of heavy weights. You get there, you're like, fuck, I forgot my iPod, my phone battery's low. But then you get through it, and at the end of it, you feel great. You feel amazing. I don't think I've ever had a bad workout, man. I've never left the gym feeling like, you know what, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. And it's the same thing with approaching people, because what you're doing is like your body knows, like there's a reason. I'm big into neuroscience. There's a guy named Andrew Huberman who has a lot of like really good stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
Dude, he's amazing. So he was explaining like an analogy with animals when they're getting water. Animals don't get dopamine releases when they get the actual water. What they get, the dopamine release, is when they're pursuing the water. Like when they don't have any water, they don't get any dopamine. When they get the water, they don't get dopamine. They get a little bit, but where it comes is when they're starting to walk towards the water, their body knows, okay, we're going to get it. We're working towards it to incentivize to complete the mission to get to the water. That's when they release it. It's the same concept for pretty much everything in life, right? Before you present on stage, you're nervous. Fuck, I don't want to do it. You get up there, couple lines in, you start to get more comfortable. Then you feel really good. And then, yes, there's the crowd, the cheer. Same idea with, hey, like, yes, I will give you my number and we will go on a date. Same idea. That's when your body's like, yes, you did it.
100%.
I know you've mostly coached guys probably leaning in their 30s, though.
Between 30 and 50. Probably the average is like 39, 40, I would say.
Yeah, that's interesting. My oldest client would have been about 35. I think that I look young, but also like I'm not marketing myself towards that kind of people. Because I'm trying to help my fans mostly, and most of my fans are like 18 to 30. But
Yeah,
what's the biggest difference you find between the clients you have in their 20s versus 30s?
not any big difference.
No, really?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to that a lot because I'm like they all have the same problems. Like when it comes to girls, they all have the same problems. When it comes to meeting women, they all have the same problems. Obviously, the older ones they're more grounded in their personality. They
Or
know where
more
they're
so, I
going.
guess, with what they want. Because I found the guys in their 20s, most of them, they want multiple girls. They want respect. They want more validation from women. Whereas the guys in their
Interesting. For me,
30s,
not the case. Because
yeah,
like, but that's maybe because of my marketing. Because like the guys who are in their 20s who come to me, they're like, no, I want to find a high quality relationship. But that's probably because of the message that I'm putting
right.
out
Okay,
there.
that makes sense.
You
Yeah.
know, so I don't find that a lot. Now, obviously, I would understand that in a general trend, to people who, because I was talking about my clients, but in a general trend, people in the 20s, men in the 20s, they want to go out there and conquer. You know, which is what I understand. But then a lot of them get burned eventually, and then the older ones. That's why I have more older ones. I don't have that many in their 20s, but the ones who come to me, they're like, yeah, I want to get a couple of dates for a while, but then they're like, I want to find a high quality relationship. For them, dating is the process to find a high quality relationship. For a lot of them, you know, I don't think there's any right or wrong, right?
Hmm.
I think for 90% plus men, the ultimate path is a long-term relationship exclusive. There's a lot of other ways that can make a lot of different type of people happy, you know?
Hmm. So one thing I think that'd be interesting for you, like you're coaching a lot of guys that have probably gone through like marriage, divorce, stuff like that. I mean, you've went through that in your own life, but like that's something I haven't really dove into. So how did you learn about all that? Like how did you enter into that world?
Oh, you mean
Divorce,
the
marriage.
divorce thing kind of?
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
what
with my ex-wife, right? Yeah, it's not a fun process, man. I'm telling you, it's not fun. It's not cool. And so, like, mainly I went through it myself, so that's why I was able to relate to that. But then I also had so many clients who went through it, so I saw it from my perspective. But then, just like yourself, you get the meta perspective. You get 50 different perspectives. I don't know, however many, 10, 50, 100, whatever, right? You get a lot of different perspectives from a bird's. You can look down at their perspective, so you see the patterns, right? You're
Hmm.
basically out of the matrix and you look down upon it. And you're like, okay, I see. This is the issue. This is the issue. And the issue is always the same when it comes to divorce. There's the communication with the ex-wife. And then sometimes she's making it difficult with the children. Then it's like, oh, the
Right.
guys like they don't know how to set boundaries. The interesting thing is like they oftentimes fall back into the same pattern when they're talking to their ex-wife. They're now a more confident version, but when they're talking to them, that ex-wife,
Yeah, because that frame still
they
exists.
exactly the same. Yeah, you're right. The frame still exists, and like what we do is we suck them out of that, and it's not to be disrespectful at all, but it's like, okay, have a relationship on eye level. You don't need to take any bullshit. You don't need to tolerate any bullshit. Be respectful and kind, but also stand up for yourself. Jesus Christ, Nathaniel Brandon, the 6 pillars of self-esteem. Stop having an antagonistic relationship with yourself. Be a friend for yourself. Stand up for yourself and you'll grow in self-esteem even when it's difficult. Doesn't mean you're not going to be nervous. I'm telling you, yeah, the nervousness is going to be there. The nervousness is going to subside the more you expose yourself to it. Expose yourself to fear and it's going to subside over time. That's the most basic way to overcome fear. Obviously there's many different ways in neurolinguistic programming, a lot of techniques to reduce fear, but the essence, if in doubt, look whatever you're afraid of right in the eye and walk through it. And even if that means having a difficult conversation with your ex-wife in relation to she expects you to pay here and there, or you have a dance class on Wednesday and she says, can you please take the kids? You're like, well, that was not agreed. Please stick to the schedule. That is a challenge in and of itself. That's a little drag that you have to face.
It's a test. Here's a question for you. I know that it's different compared to your clients versus everything else going on in the world. What do you think the biggest problem with dating is right now? Not necessarily with your clients, but like just in general in the world. Like, what do you think is the major thing that's keeping people out of relationships, keeping them unhappy? I mean, there's a couple of different ways we can go with this. Like, I know that people's expectations are higher than ever, like women's expectations, whereas men's expectations have always been pretty low. And I think men are starting to come around to get higher expectations. And I'm sure that's something you probably teach a lot of guys because, it has to be taught to most people. There's this concept where guys are falling over themselves in order to get the approval of women, whereas it should be much more equal. So what are your thoughts on that? What do you think the biggest problem with dating is right now? What do you see?
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pinpoint the biggest one. I think there's a lot of problems. I think one is even just the idea of abundance, the most basic concept. Man, you don't ever need one particular person to be happy. That starts there. Marshall Rosenberg, founder of Nonviolent Communication, said, any psychological need we have can be met independently of any particular person. Which means our need for love and connection can be met by many, many, many different people. There's 4 billion women in the world. 10% of them are in your age group. If you live in a city with 500,000 people, 25 to 30,000 of them are in the right age group for you. Can you find one for an amazing relationship? Can you find a few who are going to want to hang out with you? Yes, you can. Now, some people then, here's the next thing. I think it's just a numbers game. It's not just a numbers game. You can go to 1,000 approaches. If you suck at it, you're not going to get anywhere. You need somebody, you need some process, you need some feedback mechanism. And that's why coaching is one of the most amazing things to learn, because somebody provides you with external feedback because you have blind spots you didn't even know you have. You have blind spots you didn't even know you have. They're unconscious incompetencies. You don't even know what you're doing wrong. And if you didn't have any blind spots, you'd already have the result. So you don't need to do coaching. You can learn it by themselves. People can, absolutely. But you need some feedback mechanism, right, to learn and improve your mistakes. Because on the one hand, there's a lot. So expose yourself. Get out there. So, at the same time.
Okay, right. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, okay, so that makes more sense then, because you're doing these multi-week programs, right? So do you have them just do their own normal life and then they report back to you and you give them feedback? Or do you like give them challenges like, hey, this week, I want you to go out. I want you to approach 5 people. You don't have to get their phone number, but just like, if it's a guy at the coffee shop, just tell him nice sweater. Like, because we're talking about getting people from 0 to like 3 or 4 before they even, go and actually approach a woman. So these blind spots you're speaking of, how are you able to get the men aware of them? Do you have like challenges or structures they follow, or what do you outline for them, I suppose?
Yeah, so my programs are all months long, either 3 months, 6 months, or even longer, or years, or up to a year. I don't go over a year because then I think it gets a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
In the dating side, in personal development, there's clients who stick with me for years, but then that's at some point you got to have the drill. Like if you need a 3-year dating coaching program, then something went wrong. Then you got the wrong coach.
Yeah.
One is progressive desensitization, and that's individual, right? So the challenges always depend on the individual. So most of my programs are group coaching programs, except for the guys who can afford it. Then it's like it's an extraordinary amount of money for the one-on-one. But like it doesn't matter. I still work with them individually because I still speak to them one-on-one, even if it's in a group format, right? And obviously there's a structure to it. But one is progressive desensitization. Depends on where somebody's at. If somebody's never done anything, then I'm like, okay, just go and introduce yourself and ask for the time. Pretend your phone is dead, ask for the time. Ask for directions. Just get used to the thought of speaking to women. Okay, even before that, walk by and say hi. Even before, right? You do the same thing. You just look at somebody, make eye contact, right? You say hi, boom, you walk, you give a high five. You walk up, you give a compliment. You build, give a compliment and walk away. You give a compliment, have a conversation. You go have a compliment, conversation. But the cool thing is the reason progressive desensitization always works is because because there's 3 zones. We as human beings exist in 3 zones of emotional comfort, right? Or difficulty. One is the comfort zone. And we all know that. We feel pretty cool. Most things we do, we live in our comfort zone. We've done this before. We're competent. Mm-hmm. Then if we push ourselves a little bit further to do something that's harder, then we go into the zone of challenge, the zone of growth, where we might feel nervous, it is difficult, but we're still able to perform. Because if we do something that's even more difficult, subjectivity is reality in that sense. And if we do something that's even more difficult, it's a zone of overwhelm where the brain just collapses. Like, I can't go. That's it. I shut down. It's too difficult. If you were to ask most guys to walk up to 3 girls, they literally can't do it. And is it because they physiologically can't? They don't have the abilities? No, they could walk over and utter sounds using their vocal cords, but subjectively, given their personal experiences and where they're at, they can't at that point in time. So you need to appreciate subjectivity where they're at. So like, I'm very harsh, but I'm also kind and caring. So you need to find a balance. Who needs what? Sometimes guys need a hug, metaphorically speaking, and sometimes they need a fucking bitch slap in the face.
Something I think that I just realized too, to go full circle, you were talking about the Johan Hari thing earlier about how, like, we need number one prioritization is the high level social contact, right? Do you think that, obviously you're a coach, but the service you offer, most importantly, is obvious. I think a lot of people that probably sign up for consults with us, they know what they need to do. But the fact that there's somebody there in their corner every week, keeping them accountable and being that contact for them, How much of a difference do you think that is? Because would you not agree? Like a lot of people, like would probably know what they're like. That's something I hear all the time. And we as humans, we know what we're supposed to do, but we find every excuse not to do it. Right? How much do you think?
It's not. I don't agree with that, because if you really look at it, there's so many details of so many situations where I've gotten, because I didn't get to finish my complete story earlier, right?
Yep.
It's like basically over the years I got an insane amount of personal experience, as I'm sure you have yourself. And if you've gotten such an insane personal experience, not just coaching, but like personal experience, like an insane amount, what most people could consider, then you know the details of situations. There's so many things. For example, right? I'll give you a very practical example where you'd think they know what to do, but they don't. So one of the guys, he went on a date with a girl on Friday, then he didn't text her all weekend because he didn't want to seem needy, and now it's Monday. Even though she sent him a text on Friday saying that was so much fun. He sent only brief text. So now that is a technical detail where you and I could tell him, no, it's okay to send, you don't need to be needy, you don't need to overdo it, but a text or a random photo, like some value drop, or at least scheduling the next thing would not have been needy. There's so many details where they need somebody like you or I to look down and tell them exactly what to do. But you're right. But you're also right that, they know they need to do the approach and they don't do it. Yes, having somebody in your corner who's with you, be that virtually or physically or whatever the case may be, is absolutely and utterly important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because men don't feel like they have anybody in their corner. Because all of societies, men are pieces of shit. And I'm not one of those guys who's like, women are the enemy, women are bad. No. I'm not one of those bitter dudes. That's really not me. There's amazing women out there, and there's amazing men out there, and there's terrible women and there's terrible men out there. It's all there,
Yeah.
I don't need to stereotype a whole group as good or bad, but it is true that a lot of men don't feel like they have anybody in their corner. They're not allowed to be masculine. A lot of men are feminized, super feminized.
Right.
They don't know what it means to be a man, even though there's many, many different versions of being a man, but it's like there's certain things that are universal. Every man shouldn't train their masculine energy. I have a very strong feminine side. Like, as in, I have like typical characteristics that are considered very, very feminine. Like Fernanda calls them cute. I think she means gay. Like when I watch Interstellar, the end of the movie, without having to spoil it for anybody, I cry like a little bitch. Like I have a strong feminine side to myself, but I also have a really, really strong masculine side. Part of that came to martial arts, obviously, like where it's just like competing, physical combat, not UFC fighter, not professional fighter level, but I'd say like a level below professional fighter.
Yeah. So you're like sparring with some kickboxing, Muay Thai, stuff like that.
When you actually physically fight, that builds masculinity, and then obviously you'd never want to transfer violence into real life, but it builds a masculine core. Then doing approaches is super masculine, being able to, what are frames? What does it mean to have a relationship on eye level where I don't disrespect her, but she sure as hell doesn't get to disrespect me? All these things. So I think you're right. They need somebody in their corner who's just with them, who gives them a kick in the ass. Because the reason they're not doing it is not just a kick in the ass, there's mindset problems, right? And what coaching is, it's a guided conversation. The analogy that I like to use is like, what's your favorite car, man? What's your favorite brand of car?
Fuck, man. Yeah. I'm not a car guy. So let's just say Honda. I'm not a car guy, but
okay. Also, I'm a bad German. I'm not a car guy either, but most men are, right? So let's say you're sitting in a Honda, you're hitting the acceleration, you're trying to go somewhere, but the car doesn't move, or it just moves only a little bit. You're like, what's going on? You look under the hood, trying to look at the engine, everything seems fine. You sit back in, you hit the acceleration, the car isn't moving. You're like, what is going on? And you're hitting it, and it's moving only a little bit, and then you can hear the engine rev, you can smell the steam, you're like, what is going on? And then eventually you realize the handbrake is pulled. Those are mindset problems. That's mindset problems. The wrong thoughts at the wrong point in time. You don't even know what you're doing wrong. And that's what's holding us back. Be that in business, be that you've done it with social media. There's like one thought, one little twist makes all the difference, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's that.
Especially on TikTok, man. Nope. Woo! You ever had a TikTok go the wrong way viral?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
God damn, man. TikTok's undefeated. Those hate comments, woo-hoo-hoo. They can be vicious, man.
Man, I have had videos, man, where especially like if you run ads or something, and like I sometimes promote like online seminars or something with TikTok, and especially if it's that, they hate. But I don't even want to say what it is. But graphic violence. In my case, 8 out of 10 comments revolve around.
Oh, yeah. Like they're implying you to take a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If that makes sense.
Very much. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So back to the thing about guys having somebody in their corner. Do you think the guys feel better? Because you said you do group calls every week. Do you think they feel better knowing that there's other guys going through the same issues as them? Because I feel like most guys in real life, they don't want to open up about that shit. So does that like add, I mean, actually another thing too, though, like but what if everybody's at a different stage? Wouldn't it be like, you got a guy that can barely say hi to somebody and wave to somebody. Then you got somebody that's super advanced doing text and technical stuff. How are you able to kind of, I guess, would that help all the other guys learn stuff that's above their pay grade, even though they're not at that point yet? Is that kind of where you're going with it?
Now, obviously, look, people can always pay more to get one-on-one. They can always do that. But here's the thing. Groups, like even the one-on-one clients, I force them to do a couple of group calls every now and then, because they may think that they're so special. Because here's the thing, right, about the group calls. First of all, everybody gets more than enough time, right? I've never run out of time, ever, right? I was like, because if it should, everybody gets more than enough time. There's so many calls, it's no problem. Nope, like to go really, really deep. And if anybody wants one-on-one, they can get more time. But they think they're special, but they're not. People are special in their gifts, in the beautiful things they have to contribute to the world. I genuinely believe that. But men believe they're special when it comes to their problems. And the group coaching shows them they're really not. You know?
That's a big analogy. Do you ever listen to Entrepreneurs in Cars? You know Rich Cooper?
A little bit. I know his stuff. Yeah.
Damn, it slipped my mind. It was something about, the worst day you've ever had, somebody else would trade their life for that day. Kind of related to what you just said, but basically, like, I'm sure some guys in the group calls, they're like, man, I thought I had issues. Fuck, this guy's dealing with this, you know? So that's probably a good asset to that as well. Like, people feel like their problems aren't as big as they thought they were initially.
And if I may say so humbly, if you do that as well, you'll notice that I enter a zone of genius that is absolutely amazing. It's like, I know it's going to sound arrogant, but when I'm in these calls, man, and I'm going for 3 hours, 2 hours, people give me impulses. Now we go so deep with it. With some people ask me a question, I go, yes, no. I give them the answer in 7 seconds and the problem resolved. And they get the answer.
Warmed up, exactly your machine is going. You're right. Running. You're in the zone.
Sometimes the answer is really quick. Sometimes I go so deep and I just go on this rant and then the stories and they're like, wow, it goes deep. You go into such a zone and solve it like that. And when there's people in it, it energizes it. It is this really it's really powerful. It's a really powerful setting. And people get access to a network as well, right? People get access to a network, which is now I'm able to connect clients in big cities. People are traveling, especially like very, very ambitious and successful men. They want more of that, you know? So right. It's a win-win-win for everybody, man.
What I do right now, I don't do any multi-week, multi-month programs. I don't do anything of that yet. Right now, I just have, because it's a marketing thing. I have one of my sections for consulting is how to build a massive YouTube channel, right? So how to get hundreds of thousands of followers, how to like do the thumbnails, the editing videos, all that stuff. And then I have the dating and relationship one, but I haven't completely gone all in on that. But right now, all my coaching sessions are basically one-on-one, like whatever issue you're having, we handle it in one session. But you do one-on-one sessions as well, but you also do the multi-week, multi-month programs. I know it's like a pretty obvious answer, but like, why do you think that it's much more useful for people that, like, I'm sure you have some people come to you like, hey, I need one-on-one. And you're like, no, dude, you need this is going to take more than just one session to kind of help you out, help you improve and get through this. What are some of the differences you see in clients that need one-on-one specialized help, which, like you said, is more expensive, versus people that you think would be better to follow a more linear, progressive, almost like a program?
So I don't do sessions, really. I don't do a lot of sessions. I don't do one-on-one. I do one-on-one, but I don't do sessions. Even the one-on-one clients, it's longer. And the reason for that is those people have spent 40, 50 years establishing patterns of thinking, feeling, and acting. It's habits. They don't change in a day. There's so much wrong thought to be pulled out of their heads that's causing them suffering that only surfaces in conversation over time. That's the biggest reason for that. Sorry, I forgot the rest of your question.
No, that's very interesting. You kind of answered what I was getting at, because I feel like as much as it is useful for people to get a one-on-one session, and hopefully you can, help fix everything that's going on with their issue in 1 hour.
You can do a lot, man. You can do a lot in a session. Like if I do a session with somebody, it's life-changing. 100%. And it's the same for you. If you do a session with somebody and you go deep and they actually act on it, it's absolutely life-changing. But it doesn't compare to if you stick with them for a couple of months.
Yeah, that's a much more methodical way of doing it, right? Because then you can learn it over time. You can see the progressions. And then, I like the idea of how you will come in and give feedback to them, right? So depending where they are, first you have to wave to somebody. First you have to go and say hi to somebody in the store. And then you progress to the point where they're, getting regular dates and stuff. Oh, here's something I got to talk to you about, man. I know every client's different, but would you recommend meeting people in real life over dating apps?
I recommend both. So I say it's both. I personally prefer real life, 100%.
Yeah.
But I prefer real life. I say real life is more important than online, 100%. But I do both because both works. Both is amazing, But it depends on who you're at, right? But both works. I personally prefer real life. I think real life has the more transformative impact on the character, but I do both.
Okay, fair enough. I feel like because a lot of people come to me and they'll ask about, tips for their dating profiles and stuff, and then I can help them with it. But I think if you spent, let's say, 10 hours building a sick profile, messaging, swiping, all that, versus 10 hours at the mall or at the beach or at the park or just driving around the city, I feel like you'd get way more success in leads approaching people in real life versus on an app, because I know the dark truths about the amount of people that are on apps that are actually men, that are bots. If you have height preferences, if you're shorter, but in real life, women don't pay as much attention to that stuff as they do on dating apps. So I feel like most people on dating apps I'm talking like Hinge, Bumble, Tinder. So you might be, there might be more stuff like OkCupid, Match and all that. That's not something I'm very familiar with, but I feel like because of lack of success on dating apps, it actually hurts guys' self-esteem and makes them more reluctant to approach people in real life, because they think, hey, if I'm not getting any matches or any success on dating apps, then I just suck in all dating. Whereas in real life, they would do way better, I think. I mean, I'm biased because that's all the videos I do, but
I think you're spot on there. Like a lot of guys, it harms their self-esteem if they're not understanding online, but they just need somebody to tell them, yo, you're going to get, this is the amount of results you can expect. Then there is something called objective beauty standard, right? Certain type of men are going to do better than others on online dating apps, right? If you are an objective 3 out of 10 as a man, because there are some men who are who just look like that, then we can still optimize it. But if you are a 3 out of 10, I've had clients where I said, we're not going to do online because they're so butt ugly.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
And
so you'll be real with them. You'll be like, this is not going to work.
It depends on the client, right? If it's like a normal looking men, if they're really, really ugly, and it's just objective, that's just objective, not in their soul, just facial symmetry, they were unfortunate, the universe punished them a little bit. Yeah, then we do real life, and then they get great results in real life, but then we're not going to do online. But most people, when they're normal looking, they can get good results. Remember, not every man wants a 9 or 10.
Right.
Not
most guys don't. They just want a 7 or 8 that likes them and has a cool personality. And it's funny because when you get older, man, the looks go. I'd rather be, if I'm going to be old and ugly anyways, man, I want it to be with somebody that makes me laugh,
Yeah, man.
So before we wrap up here, couple quick questions. So you're doing these 3 to 6 months coaching programs. Have you ever been 3 or 4 weeks in and somebody's made so many improvements? You're like, buddy, dude, you don't even need me anymore. You got this. Has that ever happened to you?
Once or twice, but those guys were very almost never, but once or twice, because there's almost nothing, because at some point when you've had so many, almost everything has happened, but only once or twice. These were guys that were already at 99%. They were literally just like, I just want to get this or that, but with those I only did it on a monthly basis. With those two that were but now the thing is, every man who's listening to that is now, oh, that's probably me. No, motherfucker, that's not you, right? Those guys, they already had 4 or 5 dates a week when they came to me.
Yeah.
We improved the quality and we tweaked a couple of things. So then they ended up marrying or whatever, getting whatever result they wanted to have. But they were already at that level. Most guys know you're not like that. It's oh, there must be me. No, it's not you.
Interesting. So do you like, do some people, do you give them like, hey, this guy needs extra sessions this month? Or does everybody follow the same, like, once a week at this time? Like, how do you decide who needs more help? Do you give everybody equal attention? Because I know you said earlier, like, men's problems are not special or something like that. Like, and when they're in a group chat, they kind of realize that. So how do you delegate who needs more help than others, if that makes sense?
I work with adults, man. That's their responsibility. Everybody gets the same amount of time. Like if everybody's in the same program, they get the same amount. But not, here's the interesting, not everybody asks for the same amount. I get the encouragement, they get the kick in the ass, they get the harshness, they get the truth, they get all the technical expertise, they get everything they need. The only responsibility that they have is to show up. Everybody gets as much as they want. And if somebody needs an extra or something, I go above and beyond for my fucking clients. Right? Like in the middle of the night, I'm in a nightclub myself, or I'm somewhere with Fernanda on a date, having quality time. I take a call with a client or something, if they need it, right? They're on a date right now, or they're about to go on a date. They're like, oh, I'm a little nervous. Tell me, what am I going to do? Like, for example, like guys who've never had sex, right?
Yeah.
They're like 30, 40-year-old software engineers, never had sex in their life, or like only once or twice. And it's like a massive deal. I'm like, yeah, I'll jump on a call, like on a fucking phone call with them, call them on the other side of, if it needs to. I'll do whatever it takes, but it's their responsibility to take action. Most of them just take amazing action. But yeah, it's their responsibility. They're adults,
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Do you, what was the biggest mistake you made when you started this business? And like, maybe it was like, you thought everybody would want a certain thing, but they actually didn't. For example, you thought people wouldn't be as interested in girlfriends. You thought they'd be more interested in multiple hookups, but they were all girlfriends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is that your biggest
yeah. That was so two big mistakes. One, I pushed my clients too hard because once I got into it, I expected them to be in the very beginning, in the first, I thought it was like, oh, I pushed them too hard. And I didn't realize progressive desensitization, step by step. I didn't realize how much you'd have to honor subjectivity. And then the other thing was like, when I got into it, I didn't want a relationship. I was just like, oh, this is fun. So I'm sure they don't want that. And I was like, no, 90+% of men want that. And I do realize that for most men, that's absolutely the most fulfilling thing. It seems like you made a similar experience.
Yeah, dude, everybody wants a girlfriend. Like 90% of people want a girlfriend. But my so my coaching and consulting isn't specific to just dating. It's also the other stuff. Sometimes I have guys that come in and they say that they don't have any really good high-level men in their lives. Like they don't have any friends that are on the same level as them intellectually. And they hang out with these guys every weekend, but they're playing dumb so that, it feels like they're fitting in. Like, they're drinking and they're playing video games, but they want people that are into the stuff they actually are interested in, but they don't know how to meet guys like this without coming off as gay, right? Because when a guy approaches another guy, hey, dude, you're cool. A lot of guys are gonna be like, dude, this guy's gay, right? So that's one of the things I provide as a service a lot, that was surprising to me. So yeah, that was interesting to me. Yeah, I guess what are the biggest, what are the tweaks you've made, I guess, on the business side? What are the best things that you've done that, for those that are watching that want to do their own coaching and consulting one day and help others, whether it's dating or it's, entrepreneurship, sales, tech, even mental health. What do you think the biggest difference business-wise you did was led to more success? Like, for example, I know you said one thing, if somebody's about to go on a date, they can call you, and you can be like, hey, bro, you got this. Well, what are some things that you've noticed increased your business and overall customer satisfaction?
One is going to sound so cliche, but it's two main ones. One very technical, one high level. First, the high level. You have to do something you really care about. I'm in entrepreneurial circles in Germany with 5,000 other coaches. And like some of them don't care about what they do. Some of them they do. They're not all dating coaches. Most of them aren't dating coaches. A lot of them do B2B. A lot of them do, like, you really have to care about what you want. To me, there's things in the business that feel like work, certain things we don't want to do, but we're just a man, so we do it,
Yeah.
But there's things like talking to a client is actually talking to a client almost never feels like work. Like I can be fucking burnt out after a 13, 14-hour day. And like somebody calls me and I'm like, I get energy from that almost always.
I feel that too, man. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't it so rewarding though?
And then somebody afterwards you feel so awake too, because when you help somebody else, it keeps you accountable. Like, hey, if I told them to do that, I have to fucking do that now. Right? It's the ultimate accountability. And I think only coaches would really understand that. So what was the other thing? What was the other
For
thing?
sure. Social media, man. Just put out content, as you know, that not better than myself. But it's by far, obviously, this in terms of so you asked a third. I'm going to give you a third answer because you asked about client success, which is something else. But like business success, social media, man, as you know that even better than myself. You're insanely successful. You got 800,000 plus on YouTube, 1 million on TikTok, 75 on Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Holy shit, that's so impressive. So you know that more than anybody else, that like what your brand, just put yourself out there as a brand that is the number one thing. And then in terms of client success, it's one, you have to be really good, like you already are, but it's like there's some people who aren't good. I never talk badly about anybody. You know, there's some people in the industry, they talk bad about others in the industry, you know? And I'm like, I'd never do that, man. I think if people are dating coaches, they do God's work. They help men. I praise the Lord for that because the men need that. I'll never talk bad about that. There's like some people aren't good. You have to be good. You have to have a good, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be really good at because like what we actually do, people like you and I, a lot of people don't realize we actually do coaching and consulting. But what most people don't know is that in pure coaching, you're not allowed to give advice. According to the International Coaching Federation, pure coaching, you're only allowed to ask questions and summarize. The giving advice part is actually technically consulting. So what we're doing is coaching and consulting, right? So you need to be good at both. There we are. So you do both, right? And then it's just being willing to, if you genuinely like it, you don't mind taking a call for a client in the middle of the night. Right?
That's very interesting, man. I didn't even think about that because, I'm coming into this from a YouTuber background. So like you're in Europe. So you said you have this big group of like other guys that are also doing sales coaching and stuff like that. Is that how you kind of got into coaching? Like, did you have a mentor that taught you how to do pricing, how to like handle the initial call when you first speak to somebody, how to like weed out people that would be bad clients, even if they're offering you money, like this, I'm not going to be able to provide that service to you. Like how long did that take for you to become comfortable in doing what you do?
Oh, years. It took me years. So I always loved coaching though. Like I was always coaching in a martial arts setting. I was teaching karate at my university. I always loved that. I wanted to do personal development coaching back in the day, years and years ago. But then you don't want to be a 21, you know how Gary Vee hates on 21-year-old life coaches kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I always wanted to do personal development coaching, but I was like, I gotta go and do shit first. It wasn't like that. I still would have done personal development coaching, but it's just my personal journey really took me there. So now this is what I'm doing, and that's how I kind of like got into that.
From the entrepreneurial aspect, though, like transitioning into doing this as a business, you were probably like, "Fuck!" Like, I can't believe I
have German business consultants who help me with that.
Oh, okay. I see. Like you have your own mentors.
They're big business consultants in Germany. Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. So I guess we're just about wrapped up. I had like so many more things we could talk about. We'll have to do another one of these, man. Because I was going to go into like dude, the whole the internet, like the red pill, the blue pill, all these other different higher level topics, I suppose, maybe for a future episode.
By the way, one thing I want to say about you, man, like you have a really cool energy. You have a really warm, nice, authentic energy, because there's a lot of people who get into this dating thing. They're a little bit too cool for school, once they have to be really cool, like guys who always
like they have to dress and act a certain way. And that's the thing with what my background,
they need to control the frame the whole time.
Yeah, no, I'm not into that. Like I came from a more like comedy background, right? I just realized secondhand that this was something I could do, but I think that a lot of people take themselves way too fucking seriously in this space. Like, if you don't do it this way, you're a fucking beta, you're a cuck, you're a simp, like all these I don't know. I think it's important to be down to earth. And I think that's, as long as you're genuine, you'll be okay. So, I mean, because people, when you approach people, it translates to dating too. You don't want to be following a script. You don't want to be acting a certain way. You need to get to a point where you are warm, because if you're warm, people like to be around you, right? They like, you're the fire. They come to you to warm their hands and they feel good. And as long as you can get yourself to that point, then you can attract everybody. And it goes over to everything. So, I feel like you're the same way. I know you also have red hair, but you're fire, dude. You're fire.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, the first thing that I always do with people is like, if somebody's really interested, I do a free initial call, which I think I'm sure you do as well. It's like you sit down with them for an hour, hour and a half. We talk about first, it's all about getting to know somebody. The first while, it's just me asking questions. then because I want to get to know you, because I need to know the person, right? And then we'll talk about the situation. And then it's like, just in your case, the brand does the work. People look at the videos and they're like, oh, I want that guy, you know? And we're in a very fortunate, but not fortunate, we worked for it as well, but we're in a position where they can find us on Instagram, they can find us on YouTube, they can consume our stuff, they get an idea of what we're like. And some people really dislike you probably. Some people really dislike me. And that is just fine, you know, because just like in dating, in business, and you want to be like Moses parting the Red Sea. You don't want to be like lukewarm water. You want to be the guy, the girl who some people severely dislike and other people really like.
Yeah, you want to be polarizing,
like,
I suppose.
Yeah, but in your not in a, like, as you were saying at the very beginning of our conversation, in a dancing monkey kind of way, in your way, just because you so unashamedly communicate yourself, and like if people want that, they can just apply for a free call.
Okay. David Meeson, guys, that was awesome. I know you have a podcast too.
It's called The Dating and Relationship Revolution. Only got 6 episodes at the moment.
6 episodes, eh? I'd love to come on your show, boss. That'd be fun. But yeah, guys, be sure to check out David Meeson, Instagram, TikTok, go to his website, davidmeeson.com. Yeah, man, this is a pleasure. I think this is going to help a lot of people that need not only dating and relationship advice, but also those out there that are probably curious from a business end, you know, like me. I learned a lot from this. So thanks again, brother. This was awesome.
And thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.